Hello everyone, Gaijin Housewife here. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video from the thejapanchanneldcom. Please go and subscribe to him. He does videos about Japan, about why the way society works the way it does, the best ways to behave, and the lifestyle here. His videos are very helpful and useful. Today, this video is going to be about the post office. I have some funny stories, some interesting stories about my experience at the post office in Japan and in the UK and how it's different. So let's begin, shall we?
Hey guys, another video for our How to Do Stuff in Japan playlist. If you spend any time in Japan, obviously at some stage you're going to be wanting to use the post office to send something.
I have given up on the post office. Now I use Sagawa or Kuroneko Yamato or someone like that, somewhere like that. So yeah, I have given up on the post office. You'll find out why.
And as with just about every other country in the world, if you're going to send some sort of item, usually you have to complete a declaration to say what the item is or what the items are. And a couple of reasons. Usually there's a tax reason. They're sort of concerned if you're sending alcohol or tobacco or something like that, there might be some tax payable. The other thing...
First story. I sent my grandmother a Louis Vuitton card case. And I was really proud of myself because it was my first thing I bought with my first wages when I used to work in a factory when I first came here. And I made the mistake of writing Louis Vuitton card case on the declaration form. So my grandmother had to pay a big chunk of tax, which she wasn't very happy about.
Is of course safety, because most parcels are going to end up on an aeroplane or something at some stage, or even if they don't, they want to make sure that whatever's in the parcel is safe. So that's fairly normal. We're used to that, aren't we? So obviously we have family outside Japan as well as inside Japan, so forever we've been sending parcels internationally for people's birthdays and Christmas and Mother's Days and Father's Day. And
me too. I would send things about once or twice a year. Usually the same as what he's about to say, little cards, little snacks, little toys, things like that. But yeah, it's a hassle. It's a hassle.
All sorts of things. So we're forever sending parcels around the world. And then because of the Japan channel, of course, we've got a monthly giveaway where we send out at least 2 or 3 things or 4 things or 5 things every month. So over the years we've spent a lot of time in the post office, so we've sort of...
By the way, if you go back on his channel, you can see the things he's giving away, little sake cups and little soup bowls and little toys. If you come to Japan as a tourist or you want to get nice quality sake cups or rice bowls or things like that, the best place to get them from isn't Daiso, it's the second-hand stores, like 2nd Street, for example. That's a good one. Hobby Off is another good one if you want to get little rice bowls or things like that to send home. They're good quality even though they're second-hand.
A little bit sorted out. We've got the declarations and the documents that the courier company use. We have lots of copies of those at home so that we can complete all the documentation correctly before we even go to the post office. So when we walk into the post office, we're all ready to go. Just pop past this scooter, guys. Here we go. Ah! So we've sort of got it pretty well sorted out, and we understand that they're extremely pedantic. Like most bureaucracies in Japan, they're extremely pedantic.
Yep, that's another thing. Going to the post office, you're not just popping to the post office. In the UK, we would say, I'm popping to the post office, or I'm popping down to the bank. You don't pop to these buildings in Japan. It's a day out. And, you go for a day at the post office almost. Not literally, but that's what it feels like. That's what it can feel like sometimes. Whereas in the UK, you just go... You say, I want to send this. They'll say what's in it. You say, I'm sending some books and some magazines and some toys. And they'll go, yep. You'd fill it in and they'd sort of fling it behind them. But no, in Japan, it's very different.
Can we understand what they're pedantic about and what they expect and what they want and how they carry on? So we do our preparation as best we can. And then we make sure our patient level is high before we walk into the post office, right? And some of you who've lived in Japan, who live in Japan will recognise this, and if not, we highly recommend this strategy when you're going to go into a situation here that you know is going to be potentially stressful or frustrating, that you be aware of it when you walk in the door, so you can get your patience level up as high as possible and expect that it's going to take some time.
Yeah, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Literally, make sure you had a nice breakfast in the morning, your coffee or your tea, and make sure it's a nice big block of time that you've put aside.
Faffing around, you know, it's about all you can do, and that's one of the reasons we make this sort of how-to video as well, is warning people of what it's like so they're not surprised, because quite often when these things happen it catches you unaware and that makes it even more stressful. So we're very familiar with how they work. We walked in there today into the post office with the giveaway items that we had. We showed you recently a video, a giveaway for September, and we had a whole bunch of stuff. You guys saw it: stickers, little signs, candy, balloon, a little wooden propeller thing that you spin and it flies in the air.
Another thing, I know stickers are becoming really popular in Japan at the moment. My daughter collects stickers. I'm just wondering, is it popular all around the world, or is it just Japan? The sticker album trend has become very, very popular these days.
And a bunch of things like that. So pretty much the same as we had last month. So last month we'd gone in there with the same document, completed exactly the same way, and most of the time at this post office we deal with the same lady. 90% of the time it's the same lady, and we've been dealing with it for years. So we're used to them, they're used to us. It's usually a little bit frustrating, but not too bad. Usually.
Another story I have, I'm saying it here because the lady that worked at the post office that I used to go to, we knew her as well. She used to work somewhere else, and we often cross paths. And I was trying to set up a bank account for my daughter. So I took my daughter when she was a newborn, and her boshi techo, her little baby book that you take when you go to the doctors or for ID, and her medical insurance card. Now, this is when the My Number system in Japan was new, so I didn't know I had to take that. So I walked to the post office. They say, do you have the My Number? So I went back, got her My Number, and they said, oh, do you have this other piece of document? And I said, no, we need it. And I said, why do you need this document? You know, everything's here. To prove that she's yours was the bottom line. Now, the funny part is, right, I am the only foreigner in that village for miles. Everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows. Even the people at the post office, they know. But because they have to go by the protocol, I understand why they do it, but it's just so frustrating. In the end, I just sent my husband in the end. Because how can you prove she's yours? Honestly, I just wanted to say, she's white. She's white, I'm white. So, yeah. That's what I wanted to say, but of course I couldn't.
They ask a lot of questions. They can't read English, of course, and all our papers in English because we're sending stuff internationally. No point in writing it all in Japanese. When it arrives in Norway or Australia or America, no one's going to be able to read it. So we write it in English, and we put there, you know, candy and toys and balloons and whatever else we've got in the thing, stickers. So, you know, we did it basically the same stuff, didn't we, in August? Same giveaway stuff. So we turned up today, same thing. So we've got a book to go to the guy in the US, and we've got these two parcels, one to go to someone in Australia and one to go to somewhere in Norway. So walked in, all patient and ready to be frustrated. No problem, here we go. So I put it all down. Okay, this is going to Australia, this book's going to Australia, and these two parcels, this one's going to Norway, and this one's going.
Speaking of books, this is a story from my mother. She was going to the post office in the UK, and in Japan everyone looks very, very professional. They're all dressed up very, very nicely and working for the post office, very professional. This woman was reading a book, and my mother went to the post office and she said, excuse me, because she was behind the glass. She said, excuse me. And the woman literally looked at my mother and said, I have 2 minutes left of my lunch break. And she got back to her paperback, her novel. And so, yeah, that was really frustrating because that was quite rude, to be fair.
About this size. And then, like she always does, she said, what's this? And I said, that's it. Because I got to translate, right? Because it's all in Japanese. We're talking Japanese, of course, but the document's in English. so what's that? And I said, it's stickers, and that's a little sign, and that's a toy. And then we always write toy. We send toys to people all the time, and we always write toy. And
I had that problem as well when I was sending some plastic toys back to the UK. They wanted to know what kind of toy it was. I had the same issue that he's going to have now, so I've been there.
Often when they get to the end of the document, they'll say to us, is there anything dangerous in there? You know, and at the bottom of the document it says there is nothing dangerous, and it says it in Japanese and English. There's nothing dangerous in this article, in this item, and you have to cross the box to agree to it, and you sign it like you do in every other country, right? And usually what happens at post offices around the world and at the airport when you're checking in, they ask you if there's anything dangerous, you say there's nothing dangerous, you sign the document, end of story, right? And that's the end of it, isn't it? But no, not in Japan. You sign the document to say there's nothing dangerous, and then they ask you, what's this, what's this, what's this? And you got to tell them what it is in Japanese. That's fair enough. And then they say, is there anything dangerous? And so when she first started this faffing thing, I said to her in Japanese.
I love that word, by the way. This is just me personally. After he used it, I started using the word faffing. I love that word faffing. It just means messing around. He's faffing, you know, he's taking his time messing around. I love that word.
Japanese, of course, it's all Japanese. I said to her, there's nothing dangerous. No, it's okay, there's nothing dangerous. And then she said, what's this? What's this? What's this? And what's the toy? And I said, it's just a little toy, nothing dangerous. She said, is there a battery? I said, no, nothing dangerous. Nothing dangerous, no battery, nothing dangerous. And then she said, oh, can you write no battery? Right? Now, they've never asked us to do that before. Normally we just write toy, and mocha is okay, it's a toy. So we write toy, and that's the end of it. And is there a battery in it? No, that's the end of it. Please write no battery next to it. Okay, so no battery toy. And then so I grabbed the other parcel.
I know she's being a bit pedantic, but the post office this is old, this video is old, but the post offices are getting stricter and stricter. So I understand why she asked him to do that. I understand why she did, but it is going a bit over the top, you know. You'll see in a minute.
And wrote on that, no battery toy. And which we've never had to do before, but that's okay. And then I said to her, should I write no gasoline and no bomb and no, I mean, to list the things that aren't in there is
I like that line there. It's like he's getting a little bit frustrated now, which I would be too. But yeah, I like that little line there. Shall I write no bomb, no gasoline, no this, no that? Yeah, I love that line.
Rather an odd approach, right? And of course she didn't get that. But I kept saying to her, no, there's nothing dangerous, there's nothing dangerous, nothing dangerous. And I must have said to her in the course of this quite calmly 6 or 7 times, there's nothing dangerous, there's nothing dangerous. And then I said to her, no, I signed the bottom, look, there's nothing dangerous. And she said, oh, you know, is there anything? And she kept going more than usual, you know. And I said to her, look, because I've been going there for years, I said to her, look, I'm a pilot. And she went, oh, sugoi, you know, excellent. I said, no.
There are videos on his channel about being a pilot in Japan as well, which are quite interesting. His Japanese must be really, really, really good to be able to fly in Japan, to be fair. You know, I've heard him speak Japanese before on old videos, and yeah, he is really a talented guy.
No, that's not why I'm telling you that, no. I said, I'm a pilot, I'm a commercial pilot, and that means that I have a certificate to deal with dangerous goods. So for a commercial pilot, to be a commercial pilot, you have to have a dangerous goods certificate. So you have to know what dangerous goods are and what aren't, and what's safe to travel with and what isn't, and what things, if you put together, become dangerous. And you know, we do quite a lot of study to get that certification, dangerous goods certification, right? So I explained that to her just really quickly. I said to her, so I understand dangerous goods, because I was hoping that, because we go in there every, you know.
She should have let it go there after he explained all of that. She should have understood that he wasn't sending anything dangerous and to not send anything dangerous. So she should have known that, you know, what he's talking about, that he knew what he was talking about.
Every month at least, and sometimes twice a month. And every time we go through this sort of faffing, you know. And I was hoping that by explaining this to her, that she would understand that I do understand what's meant by dangerous goods, you know. And of course, the same as every other post office in the world and every other airport, there's a list on the wall there of what's dangerous and have you got any of these items in the parcel? No, I haven't. And it just went on and on and on. And at one stage, I was really trying hard to be patient, because you've got to be patient in these situations. In some countries, if you give the staff a telling off, it might make them change their attitude, but in Japan it doesn't work. You know, as we've said a million times before, you've just got to stay patient. So
no, in Japan it works. If you get angry with people, they'll just make things more difficult for you. They'll just take up more of your time and ask you more questions. Japanese people are not directly rude in the way that we would say, oh, I'm sick of dealing with you, go away. In the UK, if someone is sick of dealing with you, they might tell you, oh, I don't want to deal with you anymore, go away, or something worse. But in Japan, they will just make things that little bit more tricky for you.
I was trying to stay patient, and I kept saying to her, no, look, no, nothing dangerous, no, nothing dangerous, no, it's just a small toy, there's nothing dangerous in it. And then at one stage she asked another question. I said, look, there's nothing dangerous. And it was a little bit too loud, and a little bit too assertive, right? But it was sort of like the patience level was getting low, and it was getting a bit frustrating. So as soon as I said it, I regretted it, you know. Look, there's nothing dangerous in there, you know. And that was about the 7th or 8th time I'd said it.
I can't blame him getting angry. I mean, he did just say it's the 7th or 8th time, so, you know, I can't really blame the guy for getting angry at the end. Like I said, the post office is it's a marathon, not a sprint.
I said, look, I signed here, look, there's nothing dangerous. I signed it, okay, where it says a declaration that says there's nothing dangerous. And so this had gone on and on, you know, which is just incredible. It felt, and often this is the case in Japan, you often feel like it's the first time you've been through it, even though you've been through it 100 times before. And you often feel like the staff are doing something for the first time, even though they've done it 1,000 times before. That's often the case. You get the same feeling at banks, you get the same feeling in all sorts of companies, the way the staff behave sometimes. You know, the City Hall, you often get the feeling that the staff are behaving like they've never done it before. It's like, well, don't you know anything? Haven't you done this before? So it went on and on. So anyway.
Another story that's funny, when I went to set up a bank account, the lady at the bank was very, very helpful. And this is when I had first come to Japan again, was new to Japan. I needed to do a lot of these things by myself because my husband worked. So, you know, and it's in business hours as well. So I needed to do a lot of this by myself. That's why my husband couldn't go with me all the time. Anyway, I was setting this up and there was a question, are you affiliated with any gangs? And of course I couldn't read that question. And I said, but what's this? And she just said to me, are you Yakuza? And I said, no. Do you think so? Look at me. And I thought it was her just being a bit daft, a bit angry with me because we had taken time. But no, it's an actual question because obviously gang members can't open bank accounts. But it was quite funny that she just said, are you Yakuza? Trying to say it in a way that would make me understand. And I said, no, look at me. No, just a housewife.
There's nothing dangerous in there. It's okay. I signed it, you know. And then I regretted it straight away. And then while she processed the parcels and stamped and I paid the money and everything, I was going out of my way then to be really relaxed and quiet and smile and be really nice, so that reassured her that, look, it's all okay. Because, you know, as we've said a million times before, you don't want to upset the harmony here. So got it all done. Thank you very much. Got my change, got the paperwork, started to walk out the door and she went, oh, I'm sorry. And she called me back and she said, there's 2 more copies here, and she gave me 2 more copies because you've always got to have lots of paper when you do something in Japan. So there's another 2 copies of the documents. Okay, now I've got 2 copies of everything and, you know, my receipt and everything. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm smiling at her and she's smiling back, and it's like, okay. And I got back in the car and I was driving home, and as you often do here in Japan, if you're a bit conscious of your behaviour, quite often after things like that, you go away going, oh God, man, you know, this place drives me mad. But at the same time,
it's nice that he noticed that he got a bit loud there. I mean, I admire that he was self-reflecting there a bit, but I would get angry too after that exchange. I mean, to be fair, he is doing his best.
time, it's good to have a bit of a self-analysis of how you dealt with it and like how was I with that, you know. And I drove away thinking, oh geez, I snapped at her a bit there at the end, you know. And then I was thinking, yeah, but I'd given her the same answer 7 times, you know. And I'd already explained, I thought explaining that pilot thing would help, and it just sort of the communication here, you feel like they just no one's listening, or they just don't have the ability. The communication thing here is different. They get stuck. This often happens. They get stuck in a mindset, and they don't really know what to do, and they're not listening, which is bizarre when it's something that they do all the time. And I mean, it's the same declaration and the same parcel pretty much that we'd sent a month before. So I'm driving away thinking all this, and as is often the case, going, oh gee.
Yeah, I mean, I have more stories, but in Japan, everybody works off of what is essentially a mental script. You do a certain thing a certain way over and over and over again, and that's your job. You know, and if you need to deviate from that in any way, you ask the person above you, and you know, double check it, and you think about it and triple check it. There's no deviation. There's no room to deviate with anything here.
All right, next time I go to the post office, I've got to be even more patient, because obviously that wasn't patient enough if I was getting grumpy there, and got to be more patient and expect that that's what it's going to be like next time as well. And so okay, yep. So drove home and got on the computer, straight onto YouTube as always to answer comments and check messages and things. And within a couple of minutes, the phone rang. Who do you think it would be? So I pick up the phone, and she said it's, you know, Nakamura from the post office.
I would just be praying silently, please don't say I have to come back. Please don't make me go back. Please don't say I have to come back.
And I said hello, and because I just knew it. This has happened to me before, okay? I've actually had phone calls from the post office before, so I know. So it was like, and like, you know, I'd only just recovered from the actual face-to-face ordeal, right? So, yes, what can I do for you? And she said, is it okay, can I talk to you now, right? Is it a good time to talk, basically? And again, all this is in Japanese, right? So is it a good time to talk? Yes. And she said to me, look, I need to ask you about that toy. What is it? And I said to her, look, I told you, it's not dangerous. It's a piece of wood, it's a propeller. And
This is where the Draimon sort of, I think he's trying to explain takekopter, which is the wooden propeller thing that Draimon has coming out of his head sometimes. So maybe that's what he was sending. But, you know, explaining that can be a little bit difficult. So
the thing we showed you, that spinning thing, and I said it's made of wood. It's a piece of wood. It's a small piece of wood. That's all it is. There's nothing else. There's no plastic. There's no metal. There's no battery. There's nothing else. It's a small toy made of wood. That's all it is. And I need to check, and I need to make sure that it's not anything dangerous. And I said, it's not dangerous. And here we are again, back to where we were when I was standing in the post office. And I'm saying to her, it's not dangerous. It's a piece of wood. There's nothing else. It's made of wood. There's that propeller thing, right? Just carved wood. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing. There's nothing else. It's just a piece of wood. Oh, I have to check and make sure it's not. Can you put on there what sort of toy it is? What sort of toy? What sort of toy? Imagine standing in Toys R
they're going to make him go back, aren't they? They're going to make him go back, aren't they?
Us, and looking around Toys R Us or any other toy shop in the world and having to describe any toy that's in there. And she said, can you say it's a doll? You know, if you're going to fill that document, she's talking about the next time I go in there. You got to say it's a doll, or you got to say it's whatever it is. And because the other thing was a balloon, so I said it was a balloon, but it was like, in English, what is it? It's a wooden propeller. And I said to her in Japanese, if I'd said, and then I said in English, wooden propeller, would you know what I meant? And she said no. So I said, it's a toy, it's a wooden toy made of wood. Oh, we have to check it's not dangerous. I said, I told you it's not dangerous. And I said, look, I'm a pilot. Like I told you when I was in the post office, I'm a pilot. And she said, same thing she said in the post office.
Yeah, I would be getting really frustrated. This is where I would just hand the phone to my husband and just say, you deal with it. No.
sugoi, like excellent. And I said, no, I'm not telling you that to impress you. I said to her, I'm telling you that because I'm making the point that I've been trained in dangerous goods. I have a license. I called it a menkyo, I called it a license to try and get across to her what it actually is. I have a license to carry dangerous goods in an aircraft. So I understand about dangerous goods. I will never put anything dangerous in a parcel I'm sending from the post office, you know? And I said, it's a toy, it's a wooden toy, you know, it's a wooden toy. And we just went round in a big circle.
I almost forgot the story I wanted to tell you. So, I wanted to send my friend, who also lives in Japan, some pajamas, some soap from Lush, and some perfume. And the post office absolutely refused to send the perfume. And I was asking why, and they said, oh, you know, it's dangerous, we can't, you know, and they just wouldn't say why. And I said, no, I'm not sending it internationally. It doesn't need to go on a plane. You know, it's going to a different part of Japan. Oh, no. So I had to go through a private courier company, not, you know, like Kuroneko Yamato, I think I used. And what I was thinking is, how come I can do it through Kuroneko Yamato, but I can't do it through the post office? You know, it still needs to get there somehow. Why are their safety protocols different?
Again, and she said, because we have to check it's not fireworks. Right? It was just bizarre. It was just absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And any other country in the world you'd be amazed, but in Japan it's not amazing. I've actually had the same experience before. I had another one once before where we were sending something else, then I can't remember what it was, and I had exactly the same thing. They hassled me while I was in there, and then they said it was okay, and then half an hour later they called me on the phone to ask me about it. So I've been through this before. With them, and if you tell any Japanese person about this, their response will be, oh, they have to do that because they have to be careful. And that's exactly the problem. That's why these things.
I understand that they need to do it because they need to be careful, but they're being so careful and going so over the top.
Never improve is because everybody just accepts this sort of bullshit, because in other countries this sort of behaviour, customers wouldn't accept it, would they? Customers would be complaining all over the place about this sort of nonsense and saying, I completed the declaration, that's the end of the story. You know, I wrote down what was in the parcel, I completed the dangerous goods declaration, that's the end of the story. A 30-minute conversation about it is not necessary, you know, it's a waste of my time. And calling me to talk about it is a waste of my time. But in Japan, that's considered being thorough. And we've talked about this before. We told you, to get a loan from the bank took 14 visits to the bank, you know, and they keep saying, can you come back again next week and bring another document? Can you come back again next week and bring...
Yeah, I am so glad that I never tried to buy a house here. It would have been a nightmare. Well, because I can't drive either, so going back and forth places is a real hassle. So yeah, that would have wound me up good and proper.
Another document in another country, customers would never go there again. I'm not going to the bank 14 times for a home loan, whereas in Japan it's just considered they're being thorough, and that's what Japanese people will tell you. If you tell them, oh, you know, if a Japanese person watches this video, that's what they'll say. They'll say, oh, they're being thorough. They have to be careful that it's not something dangerous. That's what they'll say. And of course, you understand that. I understand that. You know, we understand that because everywhere in the world there's dangerous goods rules when it comes to the post office. But only in Japan would you have this sort of experience, right? Where they'd question you for 15-20 minutes in the post office.
It must be stressful for the workers too, I expect, because... it must be stressful too for the workers, I expect. Because they don't want any hassle, they don't want a bad day. And I'm guessing they don't want to ask 50 questions either, but, you know, you could, you know, go around it. But no, in Japan, everything needs to be done a certain way, which is fine because that's the way it's always been done and it's always worked. So, but yeah, be prepared for it.
And then call you after you leave the post office, call you on the phone and talk to you about it for another 15 minutes, like the first conversation never happened. And I mean, the reason for this, there's a bunch of reasons. One is this pedantic pedantic thing with, being thorough to the point of insanity. With a lot of this stuff, it's just insane. And just, you get a bunch of foreigners that live in Japan together talking about topics like this, and everyone's got lots of examples of this sort of insanity. It just drives you insane. Just the lack of logic and the lack of reason and the common sense. And so that's one of the problems, is that it's seen as being careful and being thorough. So everyone else in Japan, the other customers would see her as being very thorough and being very careful.
I'm wondering, I wonder if you're Japanese and you live overseas and you've been to the post office, do you see other people as being a bit lax and lazy? That would be interesting to hear, if Japanese find our way of doing things a bit lax and lazy and a bit too quick.
And that's a good thing, right? And, we can see it's over the top and not necessary, but no, they'll see it as being thorough and being careful. The other thing is that the communication thing. People talk here with no communication at all. We've given you examples of that before. We went to a place the other day and the person I was with had a half-hour conversation with the staff to get the information about some...
Yeah, I don't know if I've said already, but if you need to get something done at the bank or the post office, take someone who can speak Japanese with you, please.
And then we got back in the car and we're heading home, and I said, did you find out if it was one or two? Is it two in the set or one in the set? No, I didn't know about that, which was actually the main thing that was going to be discussed. And that happens a lot here. The yoku wakarane, I don't really know thing. And you'll have conversations here, big long conversations here, and at the end of it, nothing. And that was basically what had happened in the post office. We'd have this big long on and on and on, backwards and forwards between us, and at the end of it, it's like, okay, well, that's all done, and let's pay the money, and it's all done, and that's all over. And then half an hour later you get a phone call, and it's like that first conversation never happened. Everything that we said to each other in the post office just didn't happen, and we're saying it all again. And it's just that robotic. We've talked about the robotic thing before, the robotic and the hive, and everybody's just sort of doing their thing. And there's no common sense. There's no sort of thinking outside the box, or just enough.
Anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave the video there. There's only a few minutes left, 2 minutes left. But look, I've said my piece. Take care when you go to the post office. Take someone with you. Make sure that you fill out the documents correctly the first time, and be prepared, to use his phrase, for a lot of faffing. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll put a link to his channel in the description box below. Please feel free to go and subscribe to him, and of course subscribe to me, like the video and comment. Thank you so much, guys. See you soon.